I now want to talk about repeaters. Now, you will find them in the Add to Site plus button under List. If you go to List, you have regular repeaters, you have hover repeaters, and then they also give you blank repeaters, which is what you should actually be starting out with as a designer and not use one of their templates. However, I am going to be using one of their templates because I want to take this opportunity of also showing you how a hover box works, because that's something different from a regular design. It's something that actually works in two parts. So I have just added it, and I am now going to show you how you actually edit this. Now, a list is something where if you have a whole bunch of stuff, like for example you're making a website about cars and you want to, this one is going to be about Alfa Romeo, and this one is going to be about, oh, I'm not very good with cars, but BMW, this one is going to be about Volkswagen or whatever, and so you have a list of different things and you want to show them all on the same page, then you would actually be using a repeater. Now you can also stretch these out, so let me also show you how to do that. If I stretch it to full width, it will become like this, and then what I would need to do is I would need to play with the layout and center this so that it actually sits on a center. And then if I decrease the spacing between the items, would I be able to decrease them to the point where I actually get 4 of them in a row? I'm not exactly sure. I think what I would probably need to do is decrease the size of this container in order for them to fit on one row, but I'm not going to get into that right now because I want to show you something else. Now, the way that a repeater works is that when you change the design on one element in one repeater, all the others will change at the same time. So I'm not going to change what's written here, I'm only going to change the design. So right now this is Futura, but I don't want it to be Futura, let's say. I want it to be one of my fonts, which was Barlow, so I want it to be medium, Barlow medium. Or let me actually make this something quite different so that you see the difference. And right now it has bold checked. I'm going to uncheck this. And now what happened is that it changed in every single box. It used to be Futura, so let me just go back now and go back and go back. So it was Futura in all of them, but then when I changed it to Barlow, let's just do it again real quick. Just watch the other boxes, not the one that I'm changing. And I'm going to uncheck the bold, and look, it changed everywhere. And I'm going to make them white. They are white already, so that isn't going to make a difference. But each one of them is saying something different. Now, if I edit the text to just change what is said here, so I'm just going to write something else here, none of the others are going to get affected, because each informational box contains its own information. However, the design is going to be affected in all of them. So this is Futura again, well, sorry, it's Avenir. So actually I'm just going to go to one of my paragraphs. Let's see, I have Barlow semi-condensed 22, and so when I put this here, actually the box got bigger, but I'm just going to bring this down to 18 points. And now watch all the boxes, not just the one that I'm on, but all of them. When I click on this, all of them are going to get changed, and that is essentially how a repeater works. And if you want to add items, obviously, then you can just duplicate them. Actually, that's one of the best ways of doing it. So, and then we would just rename it, just like we would rename any, hang on, oh, I can't rename it, can I? Huh, that's a bummer. Okay, so, but anyway, this is how you duplicate it. And then also, there's a link here which says learn how to show dynamic data, which is actually about something else. It's actually about something called the Content Manager. Let me just click on here and show you what it's talking about. So it's talking about creating a collection and connect it to a repeater, and there will be a separate tutorial about that on this page very shortly following this one. Now, so we looked at how we can change the fonts, and we can change images, obviously. So let me, for example, just click on this here and change the image. Let's just go to my famous cats, and let's just get a cat here, and then change this image as well while we're at it, just to show you how it works. And if you want to change the background color, you can do that too. So let me make this blue, for example, but it will only affect this box here, because the designs change from box to box to box to box, but the text designs change, or where you place things change. So for example, if I move this up, it moves up everywhere, as you can see. But things like backgrounds and images and so on are unique to each box. Now, however, there's something else about this here which is different, and let me actually just fix these here, because it seems that this box slipped, so it fixed it on all of them. Now, when I click on this here, you will see that this is composed of two parts. So one part is what you see when you... Okay, let me just show you this with the preview. Now if I scroll over this, then I get something else. Okay? And what I get is what I actually put here before I started the tutorial. So if I click on this, I have two states. One of them is regular, and the other one is the hover. What I did on the hover is I just added a background image, but in order to do that, on the regular, there's an image here. I don't want to see that image on the hover, okay? I know this is going to sound a bit confusing, bear with me. Now, on the hover, we're in the hover mode now, there are certain things that are hidden. This image, which is on the top layer, is hidden here. And if I show it, then it's going to actually, I won't be able to see that because it's going to be behind this autumn leaf image, but I could show it again if I wanted to. It's just hidden, I didn't delete it. And then there are two pieces of hidden text. And again, if I show those, I think, let's see, in order to see them, I would need to move this image backward. So now I can see it, see? But I don't want to see those, so I'm just going to click on this again, and I'm going to hide it. I don't want to see it. I don't delete things from the hover, because if I delete them, they will also disappear from here, and I don't want them to disappear from here. I only delete them from the hover, and then I add my own elements. So I have this leaf here. Let's say I also want to add a piece of text. So for some reason, when you're on the hover boxes, it likes to take you to their texts rather than yours. So I'm going to ignore that, and I'm just going to edit the text and just make it white, and maybe also make it a little bit bold. And now let's exit the hover mode, and let's take a look at what happened here. So when I hover over it, I get this other background, and I get my own text that I added, and then when I go out, then I get what's on the top page. So the hover works in two layers, and they're a little bit tricky to design. They do take quite a bit of going back and forth and figuring it out, and so on and so forth. So for example, this image here isn't quite perfectly aligned, so I would actually need to fool around with this, but then while I'm fooling around, I also have to be ultra careful not to go outside of the hover, because otherwise it won't work at all. So let's preview it again, and let's see if this actually got any better. Well, a little bit, but I would still need to play around with it here. So, and then also, of course, importantly, now this is like an introduction. So, and we have a read more button here that we see when we get on the hover. That would mean that there would have to be another page on this website that this actually links to. So the repeater and the list is a nice little introduction to your content that is actually going to get talked about more on a separate page, on a new page. So essentially that's how they work, that's how hover boxes work. I know it sounds a little bit confusing when you hear it for the first time. They are a little bit confusing to work with, I appreciate that, but then you get the hang of it as you do them. It's quite a bit of going back and forth, and configuring them is not, or rather designing them is not that easy, but they are a lot of fun, and they are really good for showing a lot of different parts of one content, like a list of things, like food recipes, or a list of cars, or a list of furniture, or a list of artwork, or whatever, and then you can completely change the design. So here I actually use the template. What I would normally do is I would actually go to one of the blank ones here where you can configure everything from the start. They also have tables here, incidentally, if you want to add a table. Not that there's anything terribly dramatic in that, but they can be a lot of fun to work with. I'm just going to try one thing, just for my own self. I'm curious about whether I can actually make this box. Hang on, I would probably need to also make this smaller because it's going to interfere with that. And now let me go back to here and let me see if I can make this container smaller. Yes, I sure can. And in that case I actually start getting 4 in a row, but it would mean that you would then need to go and figure out everything all over again. You would need to recrop your image and and all of those things. So it takes patience. It takes patience, but good design work always takes patience, people. That's not just for hover boxes, that's for pretty much everything that you do. So that's basically it for this tutorial here, and I'll see you in the next one.